Hello, I'm Ramazan Dikla. I want to share some really powerful insights I picked up during my time studying at Harvard. It's all about a challenge every single principal faces, leading a school through really complex change. This question right here. This was the first big idea that just completely struck me. And honestly, it was a game changer. I think, like a lot of leaders, I always felt that my job was to have the right solution for every single problem. But I learned very quickly that the most important work we do is almost never about quick fixes. It's about tackling challenges that just don't have an easy solution. And my course finally gave me a name for these kinds of problems. They're called adaptive challenges. You know the ones. They're the big, messy issues that aren't about a new procedure, but about shifting the whole culture and mindset. And let's be real, that's what most of our toughest and most meaningful work is all about. So, to help you get started, I've basically boiled down the key lessons for my course into a simple 3-step framework. This is how you can start tackling those adaptive challenges in your own school. First step, and this is probably the most critical one, you have to resist that powerful urge to just jump in and start doing things. Before you can lead any kind of real change, you've got to truly understand the system you're in, and that means changing your own perspective first. The course gave us this absolutely brilliant metaphor for this. To be effective, you have to constantly move between two places. There's the dance floor, that's the daily chaos, right? The meetings, the emails, the classroom visits. But then you have to get up to the balcony. That's where you step back, see the patterns, and really diagnose what's happening on the dance floor below. And it's from that balcony view that you can start to think adaptively. Now, this isn't about throwing everything out and starting from scratch. No way. It's actually the opposite. You have to be strategic, almost surgical. Think of it like a bonsai master, carefully nurturing what's healthy and pruning away what isn't.
And the course gave us this really powerful framework to guide that thinking. You have to decide what to preserve, the core strengths, the DNA of your school. Then figure out what you need to discard, the old habits holding you back. And finally, what new things you need to develop. It really is a lot like evolution. Most of the DNA stays the same, but those few critical changes create brand new possibilities.
So, once you have your diagnosis from the balcony, what's next? Well, you have to prepare your community for the work that's coming. Because adaptive change is hard. It creates tension, it can be uncomfortable, so you have to create the right conditions for your staff to actually engage with it productively. My course used this metaphor of a pressure cooker, and it just really clicked for me. You need that heat, the challenging conversations, the disagreements, for real change to happen. But you also need a strong container to hold all that pressure so things don't just boil over and fall apart. And that strong container, that's what we call a holding environment. And it's built on the single most important ingredient in any school, and that's trust. Without it, what happens? People just withdraw, they resist, or they just nod along, and no real adaptive work ever gets done. And what's so interesting is that trust isn't just one thing. As this slide shows, it really operates on two different axes. You've got vertical trust, which is all about your credibility as a leader. Do your teachers trust you? But just as important, you have horizontal trust. That's the fabric between colleagues that makes real collaboration possible. You have to be intentional about building both. Okay, so you've diagnosed the challenge. You're building a trusting environment. Now what? Well, the key here is not to launch some massive, top-down, system-wide reform. The real work begins with small, intentional steps. Instead of a giant rollout, you adopt what the course calls an experimental mindset. You start treating your ideas like hypotheses that need to be tested, not as these final, perfect answers. This way, you can run small pilot programs, learn from what works and what doesn't, and change your strategy as you go. And here is a key part of this whole experimental mindset. You do not need everyone on board from day one. In fact, trying to get total consensus right at the start, it'll paralyze you. Your first job is just to find your allies, the people who are ready and excited to try something new with you. There's a great example of this from Peachtree Ridge High School. They have this major interdisciplinary program there called Spire. It didn't start with some big faculty-wide mandate. It started with just two passionate teachers, one from biology, one from language arts, who were just given the permission and the space to try something new together. And as these small experiments start to show a little bit of progress, it is absolutely vital that you celebrate those successes. Highlighting those small wins builds credibility for the bigger change, it boosts morale, and maybe most importantly, it creates the kind of momentum that makes other people want to join in. So when you put all three of these steps together, diagnosing from the balcony, building that holding environment, and starting with small experiments, what you find is that it leads to this fundamental shift in how you even see your role as a leader.
It moves you completely away from this old idea that you need to have all the answers and be in total control of the process. In fact, trying to control adaptive work is pretty much a recipe for failure.
And this quote right here, this captures the final, most important takeaway for me. As a principal, your real job isn't to be the chief problem solver. It's to be the chief cultivator. You're creating an environment where your entire school community can learn and experiment and grow together. That is the heart of adaptive leadership.